evening. It is Ivanka. It's my privilege to be with you in this evening. And we have been talking about how important perceptions are and how they really shape the world in which we live. Because everybody's world is different. Everybody just lives in a different world because their perceptions make it the reality different to them. And that is what counts. There is an objective reality out there, but you cannot see it or understand it or know it because the reality that exists comes to you through your senses, through your eyes, through your sense of smell, your sense of taste, your sense of touch, your sense of hearing. All these things shape the reality in which you live, so that objective accumulation of energy in its own unique pattern is observed, absorbed, and interpreted by your brain. And so your brain totally determines what you experience in this world. Two people can listen to the same thing. We will say music, and one will like it and one will not. Two people can listen to the same speech and not hear the same thing, or they will interpret the words, the inflections, the sincerity, the intent of the person giving the speech, and that will color what they hear and what they observe. So therefore, each person has this unique view of reality. So once you understand that fully, that the world that you know and the life that you're living is entirely unique, and you are the only one who lives in that life, who lives in that world. You share contact with others. You have conversations. But even these sharing of ideas and conversations in which you may share your opinions, your emotions, your thoughts, your ideas, no matter how hard you try to be succinct and specific about what you are expressing, the person on the other end of your conversation is not hearing exactly what you wanted to say. He or she may hear some of what you wanted to express and understand it in the same way that you wanted to express it. But then they may not. It depends how in harmony you are with other people and how in harmony they are with you. Now, you are not expected to be in harmony with everyone, or you have those unique ideas and interpretations of everything that is going on. You are allowed to have these interpretations. You can listen to others' ideas. You can change your mind and change your interpretations. It is up to you. You can express what you want to express. You can do your best to speak and share with other people. And with some, they will understand. And perhaps you will develop a deep respect and understanding and love for one another. And that is important. For I wish to discuss the idea of love and what love means in your life. One of the interesting things about love is that it is often offered to other people. And sometimes they take it and they reciprocate with love. And what does that mean for you? What exactly did you give someone when you say, I love you? You are telling them, whether you know it or not, that you find them to be good. It's as simple as that. People only love those things they believe to be good. So that you can love chocolate ice cream because you believe it is good. It tastes good. It is fun to eat. And so you love chocolate ice cream. You may love bananas. You like the flavor of bananas. And you can eat bananas easily, and they are good for you. So you love bananas. That interpretation of it is good for you makes you love them even more. So we could go on talking about all kinds of food, but in essence, what I wanted to say, and I want you to understand, is that when you express love for someone, what you are actually saying is, I approve of you. I find you to be good. I am patient and I expect that you will behave in certain ways because I judge that you are good. Now, isn't that interesting? That part of love is making a judgment about someone. And part of love is also expectations. You may not realize this, but when you love someone, you frequently expect certain types of behavior from them because you have labeled them as good. Now, some behaviors you may not like, and you may even label them as bad. And what do you do in that circumstance where you have already declared your love and approval of someone, and now they are behaving in ways you do not approve? What do you do with your love? Do you take it away? Does it stay there? What is it? How do you handle these situations? Well, if you have already declared your love for someone, you now have to give them the leeway to act differently than you would expect them to act. That they may have faults, they may have problems. And sometimes, knowing this, it does not matter because you have extended love to this person. You give them the ability to be different than you expected, and you still continue to love them because you find them to be good, even if they don't behave in ways that you expected. You have patience when you love someone. You give them the leeway, the opportunity to be themselves in ways that are different from you. And this allows you to love unconditionally. That is what is meant by loving unconditionally. You allow the person to be however they wish to be or they happen to be without judging them as being bad and now taking away your love. It is interesting to think about. Give it some time over the next week and think about the people that you love. How do you show your love? Through patience and tolerance, maybe by helping them, giving them affection indicators such as kisses and hugs, and embraces, and then allowing them to be different. This is what you do when you are giving love. And this is what love is: approval of the person that or the thing that you are loving. And of course, your love can extend to anything you want. You can love an animal. You can love a thing, such as your home or a piece of jewelry or a tool that you use, which makes your life easier. And so you can express love in all these ways. And the more love you can express, the more happiness and joy you can find in your own life. Because happiness comes about as you acknowledge there are good things all around you, things that make you feel good, that you give approval to. And so, as a result, you lead a happy life that is filled with love because you have filled it with that love. And that is my brief message for this evening. And so I extend to you my love at this time. And I hope that you are all happy. And now, if anyone has any questions, I will be happy to take questions. Well, please. Yes.
I don't know how to start this. I was wondering about the expectations. I was always under the impression you should not expect anybody to act a certain way or do a certain thing, even if you love them. So that I didn't know what you meant by that.
Oh, well, people have expectations. In a way, they go along with anything that's going on. And if you have expectations, well, of course, they can often lead to your disappointment. And so it is good not to have expectations of other people, but very often in relationships and throughout life, you do have expectations of other people. This cannot be helped. It is just normal. It is there in your mind. Sometimes you do not even realize it until they have failed to live up to your expectations. And so the reason you shouldn't have expectations is so you're not disappointed.
Right.
And to help you accept people as they are. But it is not a sin to have expectations. They are normal and they go along with life, so to speak.
Okay. And I'm not so much animals, but I was thinking, well, if you love things, things are going to wear out. They're going to break. Even my car, which I love. But you're always, like, if you love these things, you're going to lose them. So what's the sense of loving them?
From my viewpoint, love is for things is almost an involuntary reaction. You still are making a judgment that this is good. It is good for me to have because it is a tool that I use. It helps make my life easier. Cars are very good things to love because it's natural to love your car. If it gives you good service, gets you to where you want it to go, then it is easy to make that judgment that your car is good and that you love your car. Remember that love is merely the judgment that the object of love is good. So although you are correct in that things will go away, automobiles become old, parts wear out, and they break. And after a while, you may not want to repair that car. You would like to get a new one. But it served you well. You may not even stop loving it as you get rid of it to get a new one that you love. But so loving something, loving things, you are correct in that they will often go away. You can lose them or they wear out and they're no longer useful to yourself, then you will cease to love them and you will let them go.
So how do you stop or prevent heartbreak, basically? If you're, I mean, I've seen some people really carry on about some things that they've lost, or suppose they had a fire in their house, and, their, I don't know, grandmother's pillows burned up or something.
They lose all their possessions.
Yeah, and they're heartbroken because they've lost all these things that they've been attached to.
There was nothing wrong with being heartbroken, isn't there?
Yes, it's awful.
Well,
doesn't make me happy. I can tell you that.
yes, from time to time, everyone is going to be sad over the loss of a possession. You have termed it heartbroken. And to use such terms which in the extreme express extreme distress does not help you in the long run. To say, I am sad that I have lost these possessions, but you can get new ones to replace them. And in the case of the fire, it's true, you will have lost things that you perhaps treasured, memories from when your children were small, photographs, special jewelry that you may have received as gifts and tokens of love from other people. These are treasures, and it is sad to lose them, but they are replaceable. And over time, you will stop being heartbroken over the loss of what you have had because you choose to buy new things or get more gifts from people, which take over and fill the spot that you experienced in love for the thing that you lost. It is like any grieving process. Once you let go of something and it no longer has its hold over you, you begin to move into peace.
So grieving is not fun and doesn't make us happy. So if we don't love anything, then we won't have to grieve and we won't have to be unhappy. How's that theory?
Yes, well, you can embrace that if you wish. At one point in time, the Greek philosophers called this Stoicism, and that was their opinion. Do not get involved with anything emotionally. Be stoic, and then you will never be hurt. You will lead a rather bland, flavorless life, in my opinion, because you will eradicated or restricted your emotional response to things and to people.
But if it doesn't make us happy, what's the sense of wanting to do it or agreeing to?
That is the question to ask yourself. You were the one who was arguing against being attached to anything.
Only because of the results, because the results is then you're heartbroken or you're crying or you're upset or whatever because something is gone that you had.
Yes, well, Buddha has said there are, and that being attached to things causes unhappiness in life. And so therefore you should not be attached to things. You should be willing to let all things go. Including people, allowing people to go away from your life. You can let them go and live their own lives, And you do not have to feel unhappy over that either.
Well, then you won't feel unhappy if you haven't gotten that attached, right?
Well, that is correct. And that is what Buddha
Ah, okay.
said, that the way to unhappiness is through attachment.
Oh, okay. Sounds logical.
Yes, so you can not be attached.
Mm-hmm.
You can certainly enjoy these things while you have them. If you lose them, then you let go. You're not attached, and therefore you're not unhappy.
Okay, and that's okay too. Or you're going to
Yes,
tell me everything's okay, I know.
you can have both in your life.
Okay.
You can enjoy what you have, which is present in your life now. And once it goes out of your life, as most things are temporary in this world, you need not be unhappy, because it is normal for things to move on in this world. And so you're not attached to these people, these pets, these jewelry.
Mhm.
You're not attached to things. And so therefore you remain tranquil, calm, and peaceful.
Sounds good. Now we got to do it.
Yes, choose your own way of thinking about it.
Mhm.
Because once again, everything is your perception. And so
Oh,
if you decide in your world and in your life that you will not choose to be attached to anything, you will enjoy the pleasure of its momentary being within your being and will be ready to let it go at any time, then you will probably lead a very happy life.
okay. I'll give it a try. Thank
Buddha
you.
would approve.
Okay.
Do you have other questions? It seems not.
Well, I always think of something sooner or later. Charlotte, aren't you going to ask any questions? There she is. Can't hear you.
She needs to unmute herself.
You have to unmute yourself. Yep, I lost her.
Oh, I did the
There you
wrong, I did the wrong play. Okay, now I get there. Now I understand. Okay.
All the way back.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we were talking about automobiles. So before my husband passed away, he decided to buy me a new car, and he thought that would be a good thing for me to have. And that was so kind and thoughtful of him. He knew he'd be gone, and he was my knight in shining armor chauffeur, and he took me here and there and everywhere. And so even though I do and had loved driving and would drive everywhere, I mean, I would drive to New York and to Pennsylvania and to, South Jersey and to Brooklyn, New York, everywhere. And now that I'm getting older, I'm a little more reluctant. And I think I shared that I had a few fender benders in my other car. Well, anyway, I have made the decision that this coming Saturday, I have to go and visit this old friend of mine who isn't doing well physically. And I think she is, thinking that she's not going to be around that much longer. Although I don't want to believe it, but we are getting up there. She's one of my oldest friends. We're both in our late 80s. So I am going to take the car, that new car that my husband purchased for me, although it really is 5 years old already. But I don't use it that often. It doesn't have high mileage. And I take it to be serviced very timely, and we just had all the tires replaced and it's in good shape. So I have to stop being fearful of making this trip because I've made it many times. I used to zip in and out of Brooklyn like nothing many times. And it requires going over two bridges, the Gothol's Bridge and then the Verrazzano. And my son is going to be with me. So I guess would like some reassurance that everything is going to be fine. I'm going to have a wonderful visit. Before I get there, I'm going
Yes,
to go to
Julie. We are
special.
listening to Charlotte ask her question. One moment.
Oh, am I still here talking?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things I want to do before I get to her home is to go to the special place that we used to love to have lunch there and buy some of the specialties. And they make spumoni. It's like an L&B Italian garden. Anyway, so I want to kind of be assured that everything is going to be fine. I'll be able to get to that store and get all this stuff and get to her place and spend a few hours and be able to get home safely. And I guess I'm just looking for some reassurance.
We're looking for reassurance. Can your son drive?
Yes, he could drive during the day. He has the eye problem with his retinas, but
So perhaps you could let him drive since you are worried.
okay.
At least going there, you may have to drive home if it's beginning to be dark.
Mm.
And if you take it slow and easy and are careful, you should have no problem.
Mm. Yeah, I really want to do this, and I've already told her that we're coming. So there's no way to back out anymore. I've been putting it off, and it's been a while since, I
Yes,
decided
I
to make.
understand. When you become older, the eyes are not as sharp as they used to be. The reflexes are much slower. So do not speed. Drive within the
Right.
limit and just be careful and do the best you can, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, because there are a few spots where you have to cross the highway. You have to go from one side of the highway to the other to get to like the opening of the bridge, and also getting onto one of the highways, as I recall. So it means being very careful to look both ways and make sure no one is in the way. And because that happened to me once before, and it was very scary. Where
Yes, you will have to be very careful at those intersections that you were speaking about.
mm-hmm.
And however, if your son is able to drive, he will be able to navigate them also.
Okay, yeah, I feel better about that, and I'm glad that I wasn't sure whether he would.
Yes, but he has offered to drive.
He offered, yes, it came from him. He made the offer.
So therefore, all is well in that regard, and you can allow him to drive.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need not worry about it.
I would suggest you know the white light prayer that Norma was saying?
Oh, I don't know.
Surround ourselves with the white light of your protection.
Oh, around.
Yes. Do that around you and your car
Mm-hmm.
before you leave. And
Just
believe that you will be protected as you drive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll try that. Is there a special prayer that
The white light prayer that Norma said in the beginning of this? Remember, she says the white light prayer, and then she says the Our Father.
Yes, right.
Okay, it's the white light prayer that I was talking about. So surround not just you, but your whole car.
Mm-hmm.
I do this too, so when
Okay.
I go on the road. But I'm not afraid to drive either, but that's beside the point. But I always, I mean, you never know, you know,
Mhm.
so I always do that before I get on the road.
Okay.
And you can alter it slightly and say, I surround myself in my car with the white light of God's protection.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do say prayers every time I go anywhere about please keep me safe and my car safe and get me there safely. And sometimes I ask for a parking space, and I usually
Yes,
so,
get a parking space. While he's
Well,
at it, why not?
yeah, we'll need one on Saturday. It's so crowded there. So I hope we do get.
All right. And once you say that, though, then you've got to let it go in your mind that you will be protected because
Mhm.
you've already asked.
Right. Okay. I feel better about that.
Mhm.
That is good.
Oh, yeah. And okay, the other question is about traveling again. I traveled an awful lot, and I think I did mention this to you maybe last week, that my granddaughter wants me to go on a trip with her. She's
Paris.
30. Yes, 30. So she's already got the ball rolling. She's calling B&B and she's getting all this. So it's almost like a foregone conclusion that we're definitely going. And I'm getting a little, we have plenty of time because it's not going to be until like the end of April in 2023. We thought that would be a good time, April in Paris, the end of April. And the weather should be nice then. And I have a friend who lives in Paris. So she got excited when I called her and mentioned it. So I guess that's something else I
guess you are going.
could look forward to.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, it's funny when you get older, you just feel a little more fearful of taking trips, especially, in an airplane and going to, further distance.
What are you afraid of?
Hmm?
What are you afraid of?
Well, the just the fact that you're flying up there and
But you've done it before. What's the difference how old you are when you go?
yeah, I don't know. I just feel
Yes, well, flying in an airplane is more safe than driving a car.
is that
Uh-huh. Yep.
And that is the truth. So know that in total confidence that the airplane will not drop out of the sky. You will reach your destination safely.
and I'll get back and tell you about it.
And you will come back and tell us about it. That
Oh.
sounds very
Yeah,
good.
definitely want to hear about that trip.
Oh, but it's funny how, it's I really have to make more of an effort because I have a daughter who lives in Virginia and she's been wanting me to come down to visit. And I could probably take the bus to New York and take a train there that would get me to Washington, D.C., and she could pick me up. And that's something else I guess I'll do maybe after I come back from Paris.
I got two daughters.
I can get there. I guess I can get anywhere, right?
I got
Yes.
two daughters in Virginia. One in Virginia Beach and one in Chesapeake.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
And I drive down there on and off at least once a
wow.
week, twice a
That's
year.
a good over 4 hours drive.
Oh yeah, it was about 8 hours almost.
Really? Round trip or
No, 8 hours to get to where they are.
oh really?
Yeah, it's
Oh.
not. They're not near Washington D.C. They're
Oh, that's a
down
big
past
Virginia's a
there.
big state. Yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot.
Yeah,
It
and
is.
the peninsula and the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and Tunnel.
Oh, yes.
That's how far down I go across the
Wow.
bridge and tunnel.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. As I said, my husband spoiled me. He did most of the driving and he was very good. And so I depended on him a lot.
Yes, of
But
course.
I'm a big girl
Now
now.
it's your turn.
Now it's my turn to,
He's watching you.
yeah,
Everything will be well, Charlotte.
anything. Okay, and maybe I'll even fly to Texas to see my new little grandchildren in Texas.
Make sure that the mother is perfectly willing.
Yeah, well, I think she would with me, yeah, and the grandmother, but
You must confirm.
unfortunately, it isn't too well.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Well,
I was
Donna didn't
Yep.
come
I
up
was-
with another one?
Well, I was wondering about, like, where you are, and I know you said that, like, we have, experienced lifetimes with other souls, and we experience a lifetime with them again as we go along.
Yes.
Okay, so I was wondering, I know the souls advance and you change. Do you change like the people that you come back with as you progress, for lack of a better word?
Well, let us face it, frequently you have, well, I do not wish to say problems, but things which could be worked out better after understanding one another better. So you frequently come back with at least some of the same people that you have traveled with in the past. So you have a tendency to, our friends, our family members, we all tend to progress similarly, so that it isn't a question of do we progress together, and whether that progression is a symbol of us becoming better and leaving someone behind. There are always people of different progressions, so to speak, of all different types in every incarnation. For some people, maybe on an early incarnation, when you are on an incarnation that is maybe your 56th as opposed to your first or your fifth.
Oh,
And so that you are surrounded by people who are at a different number on an incarnation. And that does not mean anything. A person who is at their 100th incarnation is not necessarily any smarter than someone who is at their 50th.
oh, that's not good.
Yes, but you come back for a different purpose. You
Oh,
are not necessarily expecting to learn new things or do new things. You may come back as a teacher or to experience a particular aspect in your life, and so that you can now integrate a lifetime of experience with that particular issue.
oh, wow.
Such as, I will give you a rather extreme one. There have been people who have married, had their spouses die, they marry again, that spouse dies, they marry again, that spouse dies, so that they are widowed or widowed several times in one lifetime. And so they are experiencing this cyclical sorrowing that they have chosen to go through for whatever reason. And it is always up to someone why they choose an incarnation. It's not willy-nilly that, uh-oh, now I got stuck in one in which I'm going to be a widow again. No, that is not the case. You actually choose what it is you are going to learn or you are going to experience. And perhaps now you need, after a lifetime, such as you have lived as at a fairly impoverished level in India, now you are coming into an extraordinarily wealthy incarnation in the United States. Well, perhaps the reason you went to India in the first place was so that you would appreciate the wealth in the next incarnation. Do you understand?
Yeah, so you're actually thinking ahead there.
Right. So
Okay.
therefore, this does not indicate that you regressed somewhere in an incarnation and now that's why you're coming back poor. It is because you choose to be in an impoverished situation so that you can appreciate wealth when it comes to you. And always have that appreciation in spite of the fact of having great wealth, that you are aware that this wealth is extraordinary and good, and you learn to share it with others, perhaps endowing foundations, giving it to other people to help them. It does not matter. It is your choice as to the main event of an incarnation. And so you may come back as the student for several years in a row, and then come back as a teacher for the next incarnation. And I said several years ago, it's several incarnations ago, not
Right.
necessarily
Yeah.
yours.
I knew what you meant.
Thank you for my rather egregious error.
It's okay, no problem.
And that is why sometimes you do not incarnate down the timeline, such as your first incarnation may not have been in cave times, and your second one would have been in when now metals are being used, and your third one might be in this does not happen. You sometimes move from an incarnation that is at some level, we will say early 19th century, and you now choose to go back in time and do something in the 17th century for a life, and then move ahead to the 21st century for a life. You do not respond up the timeline.
Ah, okay.
You
Now that
choose-
makes
You choose the life that is available, which will have the lessons and experiences that you want to have.
Mhm. Okay, now that kind of explains something that I was thinking, I don't know, a while back, but just imagining if we can go, if we die and we can go back to another time,
Yes.
we take something with us through each incarnation. It seems like we take something with us, a talent or something or whatever. Okay, so if we knew how to do a certain thing, say in the 20th century, and we go back to the 17th century, could, in the process of just living, would we be able to, like, not consciously access something, but we'd suddenly know how to do something or how to fix something because we had the other, we lived it before. You know what
Yes,
I'm
I
saying?
understand, and that is possible, that you can suddenly be aware of an understanding of how something works or why you need to do it a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sometimes that helps technology along.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So now,
sometimes
although-
it is just because the knowledge from your last incarnation, which was sometime in the future, helps you to recognize a situation that is going on here and behave in such a way that you can flow easily through the situation.
that sounds logical. That's kind of weird things have happened to me. So yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if you take that on a larger sense, a larger scale, I guess you would say, is it possible, like, well, let's say Henry Ford, that's the easiest one. Maybe he had lived a life way in the future of cars and mechanics, and when he came back in a later time, the knowledge for creating the car was kind of still with him, and he managed to create it out of whatever.
Yes, well, Henry Ford's contribution to the auto was not so much in the design of the cars, but in the assembly, the way they were put together.
Oh,
And
right.
yes, could have been something he experienced in one lifetime in the future to this other lifetime, which if you begin to think about these things, it can drive you crazy.
Okay.
So
I thought it was kind of fascinating, actually.
because
It would describe all the discoveries back through the centuries. If somebody had come from a future time and gone back way back in the centuries, and all of a sudden they, in that time, discovered something or created something, that would explain how it even popped into their head.
yes, of course. And so you can then have questions about how can the inventor of this thing, which isn't invented yet, when he comes into the world, but was in an incarnation in which was an already extracted invention, and it wasn't a new invention, it was commonplace. You can make, you can drive yourself crazy thinking about, well, how and what, and so do not think about it.
Time and space continuum, science fiction.
Yes, and yes, these things. So he brought, Henry Ford brought assembly lines
Mhm.
to make cars faster and therefore more affordable for the average person. And he always said he wanted his workers to be able to afford to buy the cars they were manufacturing.
Yeah.
And he had many other things that were not so good that he still had to learn.
Ah, okay. That was interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, and the time space thing would drive you crazy after a while. I had no explanation for that part. I did rattle that through my brain too, but
Yes,
it was just like,
yes. The question is the space-time continuum. I think that's the way it is expressed. You know, can someone come back to a time before they were born?
Right. Yeah.
And how did that experience the future or change the future? Or does it change the future or their end? So those things, I cannot explain that, but the future is not static.
Right.
It is changeable.
Mhm.
And it is always changing. Among other things, you can look at this as a matter of perceptions. The future isn't indelible, written in ink or stone, any way you wish to express it, that it will always happen in this way. No, if something else happens, it can change. And the people who are in that time period will not even notice.
Wow. That's a science
Because
fiction thing too.
there are so many aspects in ways some things can change in little ways or big ways. And the person will just have to adjust.
So I know this is probably not real, but I mean, in that concept, if someone goes back into, of course, the famous Hitler time, and somebody actually kills Hitler and he never does what he does, then that actually changes the whole future. And we won't even know it.
Yes,
Cool.
it does change the future.
Wow, that's amazing.
Just watch that movie known as Back to the Future.
Oh, yes, Back to the Future. Yes, that was fun. Yes,
I remember
I
that.
did see
Yeah.
that. All three of them, I think.
Yes. And in it, you saw how the future could change dramatically.
Yes, exactly.
It's an interesting way of experiencing things.
So now it's
So maybe
even more
there are-
interesting because technically it could be real.
And what else? This is not important.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
interesting thoughts. Are there any other questions? And I think it is time for us to say goodnight. And so I give you all my blessings. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
I am back. Okay. So now it's my turn to come to wish you a good night. And so, as I always say, remember, I love you all. Good night.
Love you too.
Love
Good
you.
night.